As above lie the stars and below sits the sea, I'm here to discuss Star Wars while they talk about Flea. Welcome to Force for Thought. I'm Luke.
I'm Max.
I'm Matt.
And this is Force for Thought.
Yes, it is.
You were worried about the intro joke.
Yeah.
You almost fucked it up.
No, that was good. No notes. We'll keep it. Hello and welcome back. We just watched...
And to be clear,
the-
we only talked about Flea that one episode.
It was
Yeah.
more than one, but...
It was a big part of the episode,
Yeah.
but
It was more than one episode.
I'm still annoyed with myself because I'm pretty sure I said John Entwistle was part of Led Zeppelin or something very wrong. John Paul Jones is the basis of Led Zeppelin.
Mm.
we have now officially issued our formal redaction.
Yes.
So, we're here to talk about The
Correction.
Acolyte episode 3. We just watched it. Max, what'd you think?
I'm really liking this show, guys. I've been thinking about this show all week leading up to this, and I actually rewatched the first 2 episodes, and in my rewatch, there really wasn't anything that I hated. Like, we talked in the last episode about how some of the dialogue and exposition was a little clunky, but I feel like in a lot of the other shows, it doesn't either have as much rewatch value because it's like The Mandalorian, where it's just like one solid story and you kind of see it from start to finish, and you're like, okay, that episode was good. Next. Or you get something kind of like Kenobi or Book of Boba Fett, where there's a couple parts that on rewatch just make you go, oh, I really don't like that. And I don't have that for either of this. And I'm just excited to see where the story goes. And I'm actually very surprised by how much development we got in this episode. I was not expecting to get the flashback started so soon. I thought that was going to be a much later in the season reveal when we finally find out what happens. And spoiler alert, I think we still don't know fully what happened.
Yeah.
Matt, what do you think?
Max, you took the words out of my mouth.
Perfect. Next, Luke.
Exactly the same thing though. Like I rewatched the first 2 episodes as well, and it's one of those shows where since it's all new characters, like literally we don't know anybody. In Andor, obviously we only know Andor. But the Acolyte, just rewatch. I'm not expecting a single thing. Like in Kenobi, you're expecting, Vader or to be in it more. You're expecting Kenobi to show down with him, and you're just kind of waiting to get to that moment. And here we just have no idea whatsoever.
Yeah, that's true. It's obviously a mystery series. I know, Matt, you like to do ratings at the end, but I'm going to jump ahead to mine because this is going to be the first Star Wars episode I've seen in a long time that I'm not going to give a perfect 10 out of 10 to. Not because I didn't like it, and it's not fair for me to not like it because of this, but it's episode 3 of a mystery series, and so of course it's going to introduce solely more questions and not any answers.
Yeah.
But I was just sitting there watching this, like, I've learned nothing from last week. Like, I feel like and I know that's what they're trying to do. It's just frustrating that I have to wait a whole other week to get simply more questions and then a whole other month to get the answers.
See, that's what I thought was going to happen. And I don't think this episode was. I think they actually gave us enough substance in episode 3 to chew on to let us wait another week. I was going into
Substance,
this episode.
like plot progression?
Yeah.
I think, well, maybe not plot
I
progression.
would argue
but,
that there was no plot
well,
progression.
I think it is because you can rewatch episodes 1 and 2 now with more backstory. You have more
Yeah.
understanding and context.
Hardly, though. We knew
Whoa.
that there was a fire and they all died.
Well, just
we
the
didn't
fact
know they
that
all died, I guess. but
They're like I basically just created like immaculate
that
conception.
is such a question and not an answer.
I agree that was definitely a question that they set up, but we'll talk about more about that in a
It felt
second.
like it
we
was
know a
all
bit
more
more.
set up, more than even episodes 1 and 2.
Well, I mean, we're still in the first act of the show. Like, it's still
we
set
are,
up.
and I don't dislike it for that. It's just early, and I'm upset that I have to keep waiting. But in terms of a episode, like watching experience, that was one of the lower tier ones I've had in recent time.
It makes sense because there's your promise a show about Jedi, and this is all about witches. It's adjacent from what you're expecting. It's not in the High Republic era. I guess it is in the High Republic era, but
It
it's
is
just
the High Republic. But yeah, this episode was just all witches,
Yeah.
and I mean there were Jedi in it, but they didn't do any cool Jedi things.
But we get to see Carrie Ann Moss, so people can stop bitching about not. I know I said this while we're watching this episode, but like people can stop bitching about not seeing Carrie Ann Moss.
And young Torben looked much better without the
Yeah.
prosthetic beard and facial hair. And
Max had a
receding
great
hairline.
Yeah.
a great thing comment during the episode, which was maybe we're going to see more flashback of the obviously the Jedi versus in current day. Obviously impossible to see Carrie Ann Moss in current day since she is dead.
And
Same thing with
Torben,
Torben.
yeah.
But I think that's a great call though too, because I think all those actors look like they do age appropriately now. In the flashbacks as they do in current day. So I feel like that's a high possibility.
Because Lee Jong-jae as Sol in the show's present day looks fine, but he looks a little bit older. And I forget which one of you two said it when we saw the flashback, and you were like, "Oh, they did a good job of like de-aging him." And I was like, "They didn't really de-age him. Oh, they actually aged him up for the other sequences. Like this is just what Lee Jong-jae looks like." So yeah, I think we're gonna see more of this time period. Those characters.
I hope so.
I guess, and like you said, that really mostly just applies for Soul and Kelnaka, because those are the only two that are still alive. At this point.
Which is smart
Kelnaka
to
looks
do
the
that.
same. So
yeah.
I don't know if he has as shaved of head in present day.
Think he let it grow out a little bit?
Yeah.
That would have been a funny detail. But I don't know.
I would love to say that would be true, and that we'll see. But I'm currently working on a movie where the entire movie, a guy is wearing a fake beard. Only for the last 30 seconds, there's a scene with him with no beard. Why would you
is
not
it like
do
a
it?
big reveal or something? Or?
Nope. Why would just time has passed? Why would you not do it the other way around?
Yeah.
Just have the beard and then shave it. I mean,
Was it a real beard that he then shaved, or
no? It's clearly a
prosthetic?
fake beard. It looks like Torburn the entire time. You're like,
Because
what
he
are
was
you
committed
doing?
to Mission Impossible, and so he couldn't shave it. So they had
it
to
was
CGI.
it was Henry Cavill.
all right? Should we just get into my note? I was the only one that took notes, and they're relatively chronological order. So
For for the viewer / listener, I have not. Usually, I'm a pretty avid note taker, but I have decided to forego notes this entire show.
You know,
and just
the
go
last,
off the dome.
The last time we recorded, I had a notepad, and I was going to take notes for the first 2 episodes, and then I just completely blanked. I was just watching the show, and I kept looking down. And I was like, "Oh, I should take note of that." I think I had like 1 note the entire time.
Yeah.
I find on re-listening to all of our episodes, I've done that a lot with the Ahsoka. When I was rewatching Ahsoka recently, I would go back and re-listen to our episodes about it, and there were so many things I was like, "Oh, I should have talked about that," and I know I meant to, but I just forgot because it's overwhelming. There's so much to talk about, and my notes are not like great. For example, I'm probably just going to read them all verbatim today to give everyone a peek behind the curtain at what my mind
Please
is like.
do.
So, number 1, Osha's a bitch who didn't block
Going
Mother.
in strong.
Who didn't what?
Block Mother. She didn't want to fight back with the thread. All right, so first of all, we can talk about the thread.
Yeah.
Way cooler than the Force. Not necessarily cooler, but different, and I love that.
I'm glad they added another thing.
Yes.
I wouldn't say cooler, but yes, definitely a cool thing.
It might be cooler. We'll see how they go forward, because it's not exclusively different, because she does talk badly about the Force. So she thinks that there's something better about the thread, and from where I'm sitting, they're the exact same, just with a different name.
Did you catch what they said about like going into exile or fleeing or whatever, the coven? Because
Capital on Flea, obviously.
to bring it back to flee, because they made a big deal about
For those
that.
not listening, Flea is a bassist that Max and Matt like, and
I don't even know if we
almost
like him,
everyone
though.
likes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Red Hot Chili, but whatever. No, because this
the
coven,
bass is a guitar that has 2 less strings. Also,
There's one behind me, if it's in frame.
they're not on Dathomir, obviously. Which are we just
It's not the
presumed to
Dathomirian
believe that
witches.
that's where
I think it's completely unrelated from Dathomirian
witches can be anywhere?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But what do they talk about? They talk about like leaving their planet or like being in exile or fleeing or whatever.
Yeah, they did.
What did they say about that? I forget.
Guess
I
what
don't know
they
if
said
that was one
about
of
it.
the
That'd have been a
notes that
good
they
note to take.
But I was I'm wondering what that means. I think that we'll get more, because I'm also thinking about the interplay between magic and the Force, or what they call the thread. Because up until now, we have been led to believe that witches practice magic, which is different from the Force.
Yeah.
And like even like visually, when you see them using magic,
Mm-hmm.
it looks different.
But how different from the Force is it, though? They're related.
They are. Well, that's my question.
I think it's more of a different interpretation and
You think it's like the same
application
thing?
of it. Yes.
It might be like
Okay.
the same.
Maybe they're just
getting-
tapping into a little bit more dark side as well, so they can just do different things.
They're certainly tapping into more dark side.
Yeah,
But
I was gonna say I feel like you're kind of tapping from the same well a little bit, just
Interesting.
using it differently.
So I always view them as two different things. So that's interesting that you guys think that magic and the
it
Force
could.
are
I have no idea. I have no
basically
heart.
the same thing.
I've always viewed them as very similarly. And I like that the show's getting into the idea of the dark side versus the light side. I guess they haven't really gotten into it that far, but the witches obviously use the dark side a lot more than the Jedi. And I like the idea that it's not necessarily better or worse to use the dark side, just different.
Mhm.
But then they start doing it, and it's like, this is
Yeah.
worse. This is evil as hell.
Oh, like when they
They do the
possess
chanting.
Torben.
Yeah, they possess Torben.
They're
This is
gonna-
certainly dark side, and that's bad.
The thing I'm not looking forward to in the show is they're clearly going to do that switch, and we all know it. We all see it coming, where the Jedi do something bad, even though they're supposed to be good, and then the witches are using the dark side, and then are going to end up being good, and then you're going to end up somewhere in this weird gray area where neither of them fully are right, neither of them are fully wrong.
Mm-hmm. But I
We all
love
see
that,
that.
though.
So do I. But like
It really seems like the Jedi are going to be fully wrong from what we've seen in present day.
Yeah,
Like-
what we've seen that story beat. We just know that's the only story beat that we know is going to happen, presumably, right? Like we don't know
Mhm.
anything else, but like that's
We don't
gonna
know
happen.
anything else.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because a lot of people were giving crap about how like easy it was to kill Torben because it was like, oh, like he was just willing to kill himself, and it's like, but like as a plot point, that's like very significant. Like that's very telling.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Like he's so rattled with guilt that he took the Barash vow, and then he was
Yeah.
willing to kill himself over this. And it's like, yeah, we still don't know what he did. I guess at this point that's the mystery. Maybe the mystery is who is this the Acolyte's master or whoever. But I think the mystery is mostly just what happened.
yeah. I mean, why is Soul there when everyone else is dead? I have a hard time believing that the fire spread that. Well, here's the one thing that bothered me
Yeah,
about
she left
the
that
episode.
room immediately, and then like their main whatever
Yes,
thing
but
started blowing up. And
they
it's like,
did.
this.
The one time they did, there was that weird rattling noise, and then they all walked over to see that the like battery thing hanging in the middle of the like whatever.
I don't remember this.
Really, it was I don't know. They were talking, and there was like a rattling, and they walk over to see that big power converter thing or whatever, and then
The big thing that explodes?
yes, so they like that was like the one little hint that that's gonna be. It's like
Hmm.
on the fritz, I guess.
On the fritz.
Like that was the one thing I'm like, okay, well, that's gonna come into play later because that was weird, right?
Yeah.
But not even a complaint, just one odd thing, I guess.
But it looked cool though, and everything.
It did look cool.
Everything in their coven was cool, like the set design and the props look great too. Visually, this show is stunning.
I think so too. Yeah.
Yeah, the ship that the Jedi had was cool. The trailer and the speeder that Kilnaka was
Yes.
working on.
Because it feels very like 1960s inspired. Like that trailer feels like something you would see in like the 60s,
Mhm.
like by a lake or something. I don't know. I like the I don't know, the shapes of the archways and the doorways are all very different too. I don't know. I like the show. Max, you just nailed it on the head too. I think it looks great, and I think like re-listening to our episode last week and re-listening to this podcast a lot, I feel like I come off of a high when we're sitting here and talking, and I feel like I either like just like I don't know, say things that I don't have a full intention. Like you're like, oh, it's interesting that you guys think about this with the Force. It's like I don't have any real. I'm just going off the cuff. Like I haven't really thought about it.
Yeah.
And I feel like I do that a lot. And last week I re-listened to our episode, and I was like, oh, maybe I was too kind. I was kind of dogging on the first two, not just like little small things like the Husky Jedi.
And
saying
Yord,
things.
which is our
And
my
Yord.
first Force for Thought official retraction that I was dogging on Yord last week, but I love Yord now. The internet has convinced me that he's amazing for little to no reason at all.
You're
but I
gonna
am
say that
fully
now.
on board.
You
but
just had to see Twitter oogling over his biceps, and you were like, all right, I like him.
It's not just his biceps; it's everything he says and the way he dresses and how he gave us the opportunity to see his biceps while he was steaming his robes, and it's like, good for you, Yord.
In
Look good.
episode 4, he's gonna come back though, and you're gonna be like, "Fuck, this guy's annoying."
No, I can't wait to see him again. Maybe that's why I
Um,
didn't like this episode. I was just anticipating more Yord all week.
To wrap up this full thing, I like this show a lot. I think this show is great. I just to echo what you said earlier, Max, is that I'm so interested in every little thing that's happening, and I think people are complaining a lot. It seems like about like the creature design because they feel like it's too Star Trekky. But in turn, and same thing with the witches. I think people are gonna be up in arms about the witches and how that's not Star Wars. And the biggest thing that I think we all can say, obviously, is the fact that they clearly don't watch the Clone Wars, which probably makes them very confused about Ahsoka because I see a lot of people still complaining about the green mist as well from Ahsoka, and I feel like there's layers to that where people just I don't know. I feel like people hold Star Wars in such a high regard, and the fact of like it's a special event to go see the movies because that's what it was for a very long time, and then you were able to kind of tap into this other section of Star Wars with the animated shows, and now those animated shows are being kind of threaded into live action shows, and it's kind of causing this weird controversy. But I don't know, just go watch the animated shows. They're really fun and they're really great, and I feel like everything is just more cohesive. If you just accept it.
That's interesting though that you heard that people are complaining about the creature design because I've had the exact opposite experience where I'm seeing a bunch of stuff, but the one universal thread is everyone acknowledging that the show looks beautiful.
Yeah.
Like people
It
like
does.
who absolutely hate it for no reason. Like even probably the people who are review bombing it are like, yeah, but it looks good though. And it's like, yeah, damn right it does.
It does.
I think this is one of the best looking shows ever, and I really like how they're bringing in a lot of these species and creatures and other things into live action for the first time. I don't think we mentioned it on our episode last week, but Luke, you mentioned it after the fact, the Zygerian, the live action Zygerian that we got to see.
or Ear Girl, Yord's apprentice.
Ear Girl, yeah.
She looked cool.
Yeah, she looked great, and it's so easy to look at some of these like live action creatures,
Mhm.
kind of like more in the Mandalorian, where for some reason they just stick out to me, and I'm just like, why doesn't this look right? And I
Mhm.
feel like in this show, everything just looks right.
Yes, that's a great call, Max. It does feel a little off in Mando.
Yeah,
Luke.
I don't want to make everyone think that I don't like the show. I do like the show, and maybe I'm letting my personal life exhaustion come into play more than it should. But I was just so excited to like learn about the mystery of Tooth Guy and Chimere and
Yeah.
Seymour Yord and all these other mysteries. Now I'm just like, okay, how are they born? Who
Yeah.
are these witches? What did the Jedi do? Why is May such why are May and Osha so different? Well, I guess that's not really a mystery, but I do like that May and Osha are so different.
Mhm.
They're just like ideologically different from a very young age, and they want different things, and that's going to be a really exciting story beat to come back to later when they interact as adults.
It was also heartbreaking at the end of the episode where May goes back to the tree where Osha always goes when she runs off by herself. That is such a
Mhm.
depressing story beat that I thought that was going to be relevant in the fact that May was going to kill that butterfly, dangerous looking thing. But no, she goes back to find her sister because she always goes to find her sister. It's like, oh man, that's actually heart wrenching because we know they don't see each other until
Yeah, now she's alone.
years later.
That is really sad.
Yeah.
I mean, I am just exhausted with this show. Do you guys want to talk about how they're the only children there? How
Mhm.
Mother Anasaya, I forget how to pronounce it, created them, and then Zabrak Mother carried them, and then birthed them, and they're black humans and not Zabrak, and
Yes.
there's just it's all a big question mark.
I also
I
want to
learned
talk
nothing
about
from
this.
this
I
episode.
love-
See, I don't know.
I'm glad that this is a mystery so that we can throw out wild speculations and not be like classic Star Wars fans who are
Mhm.
always like, oh, this is going to be that character, and then just be wildly wrong. But I feel like it is a mystery, and they clearly set that up. So I'll throw out one theory off the bat, which
Mhm.
is that she said that I carried them, and she said, but I created them. What does that mean? Maybe it has to do with cloning, dark
Mhm.
science, secrets only the Sith knew.
Mhm.
Maybe these
I'd
two
love
girls.
to tie into that.
Maybe these two girls are actually clones of what would you say her name was? Mother Anasaya.
Yeah.
And
That'd
maybe
be
that's why
really
she was
interesting.
willing to let one of her daughters go to the Jedi, because that's kind of like the light side in her that was
Oh,
always
and
feeling that pull.
I love it. I also
That's a fun theory. I
It's
like
a
that
theory.
too.
no, I like
It's probably not going to hold up another week, but I'm
yeah,
throwing
we're
it
gonna
out there
sound
now.
so stupid. I like, at least this is releasing tomorrow versus some of the bulked up episodes with major
Correct.
attractions. I said during the episode as well, I can see this tying into Anakin Skywalker being, I mean, right, kind of low hanging fruit, but just the fact that it's like Immaculate Conception, I feel like I could see the Tooth Guy trying to figure out that aspect of things, and the fact
Before
that
we get too much further from the
Sure.
Immaculate Conception of it,
Mhm.
I did have a listener reach out and correct us on that. The Immaculate Conception IRL was actually the conception of Mary, not Jesus.
I know,
And
yeah,
we keep saying that wrong. So, but I don't know
Yeah.
what the actual what the Jesus being born without a dad
mm-hmm.
phrase actually is. But for all our religious listeners out there, we do recognize that the Immaculate Conception is Mary, not Jesus.
I was going to hold on to this for a force for thought, but since we're kind of hitting it, I'm going to say something else real quick,
Mm-hmm.
which is that oftentimes people refer to Anakin's birth as a virgin birth because they, put on the story of Jesus over the story, because obviously there's a lot of similarities, the prophecy of the chosen one, the presumed virgin birth. But technically, we don't know that Shmi was a virgin. We just know that there was no father. For all we know,
That's true.
she could have had sex many times in her younger days.
With a name like
That's-
Shmi, you know she did.
I was listening to a video the other day and somebody referred to Anakin as the virgin birth. And I was like,
Interesting.
technically,
That's a
we
little
don't know that.
presumptuous, I'd say.
That is
Yeah.
presumptuous.
And
Um,
I have a much darker theory that I can get into, because we also know that Shmi is a slave and we don't know what type of slave
oh
she
boy,
is.
oh
but
boy, oh boy.
We'll take it back to the Acolyte.
I mean, obviously a low hanging fruit with Anakin, but the only reason I'm saying that I can relate to that is because I feel like the marketing is, everyone's been talking about how this takes place 100 years before Phantom Menace, and Hayden Christensen is back in Star Wars pretty heavily now, and I feel like, I'm not saying he's gonna be in this show, but I just feel like they're trying to make a lot of connections to the original trilogy. Nope. To the prequel trilogy. Thank you.
Have you heard people
Um,
talk about the original 6 Star Wars movies? Have you ever heard that phrase?
Original 6.
Yeah.
No, that's upsetting.
I know. It blew my mind the first time I heard it. It was a while ago now. It was I was doing some event in college with kids, and it ended
Oh,
early.
man.
And so I just put on a YouTube video of all 6 Star Wars movies at the time. This was like 2016,
Yeah.
and so The Force Awakens had like just come out, and it was the 6 Star Wars movies all on YouTube all at the same time.
Yes.
And I remember this one kid left, and he told his mom, he was like, "Oh, we're watching the original 6 Star Wars movies." And I was like, ugh.
That's
First time I ever felt old.
very odd.
But people call it that, and it rightfully so. It is the original 6 in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, listen, someday we're going to
Maybe-
refer to the original 9 as well when
I
episodes
know.
10, 11, and 12 come out.
And-
So
but you can't do that because there's like so many. There's like 40 years between.
it's an
So just-
oxymoron to
yeah.
say.
It's the original 3. You have to break them up by 3. It doesn't make any sense. 20 years have
It's
passed.
the trilogy of trilogies. It's the
Ugh.
original 9.
Yeah, well, that's true.
And then
for
episode
now.
10 is going to start the next 9.
Yeah. Anyway, that was kind of all I had to say about Anakin. Is just the fact that I feel like Hayden Christensen. They keep mentioning Phantom Menace 100 years before. We were talking about
I
M
think-
count and metachlorians and stuff, which I feel like absolutely is going to come into play with the blood samples they took.
Yes, I said because he took a blood sample,
Yeah.
I said if they mention midichlorians, I bet they call it M count instead of midichlorians
Yeah.
because that's how they're rebranding that. In,
You
Bad
claim that
Batch.
it's a rebrand. I think it's just a couple of isolated incidents where it would make
No.
more sense to call it
It's-
an M count than a midi-chlorian
it's a
based
rebrand.
on who was saying it. If the Jedi said it, they would say midi-chlorian, especially canonically taking place before the Phantom Menace. I really hope they drop it one way or the other so
Ooh,
we can have
It's a
a
good call, Luke. I'd be
resolution
interested
to this
in-
at least.
I hope they do mention it though, because I mean, again, that would just also further this with.
I was just
tying
about
it
to
together.
say, yeah, that would further your thing that they're
Yeah.
doubling down on the prequels instead of trying to distance themselves from it. And I think that's a really good theory. I like that. I mean, we don't know who the master of the acolytes are, the tooth guy that we keep referring to. There's obviously a lot of speculation that it's Plagueis. I don't think it's going to be, but maybe it's someone who's related to Plagueis. Maybe this is something that Plagueis is trying to find out that Palpatine finds out because there's already tons and tons of theories that Palpatine or Plagueis impregnated Shmi for the Chosen
Mhm.
One.
Yeah.
Darth Tenebrous was Plagueis' master in Legends.
Darth
so it could be
Tenebrous.
him.
Maybe it's him. Yeah, I mean, there's a million things like that. So I think, I mean, I love the theory. I definitely think that's a possibility. But we'll
have you
see.
seen the theory? And I haven't not looked into this whatsoever. Just obviously mask and outfit wise, it looks like it. And I'm sure you guys know this, that he's the original Ren. Which I
that'd be
would really like
I'd
that.
dig that.
Because
Yeah.
if they do come, I mean, he literally looks like Kylo Ren, right? I mean, besides the teeth, I mean, you take the teeth away, it's basically an outline of Kylo Ren.
Yeah, but
we
Kylo
get-
Ren wasn't modeled after the original Ren. He was modeled after Darth Vader, like in his mind.
Sure, yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
In
But
But then,
universe.
we do see the original Ren, though, in the comics a lot.
We see a guy named Ren, but
Yeah.
this could be Ren Prime.
seen
or
the
something
comics
from
go out-
100 years earlier.
we also have
The
seen the
master
comics
mold.
go out
Yeah.
the window for some reason as well.
That's true, but I'd be super upset because this
He's
isn't
in a lot
this
of
isn't just
comics.
one comic.
This is
It,
the
he
whole-
makes a lot of appearances.
a lot of very impactful appearances too.
I
Yeah.
have no
but-
basis of that or anything. The only reason I would like that is that it would tie something to the sequel trilogy, which has been virtually nothing has been tied to the sequel trilogy, live action wise.
Except for everything with cloning, with the Bad Batch and everything
Yes.
like that.
But the live action, yeah.
What if? And I know in my heart of hearts that this is not what's happening right now. But what if Star Wars does have this big plan, and right now they're doing kind of like their MCU equivalent of phase 1 or phase 2 or whatever, and the
Mhm.
first 3 phases of Marvel was all about the Infinity Saga,
Mhm.
and the next 3 phases are all about the multiverse saga and everything.
Yeah, and those panned
And-
out so well.
Yeah, that's not going well at all right now. Maybe that's why they're trying to pivot.
They'll stick the
but-
landing.
With what's his name already being kicked off,
Yeah.
Kang the Conqueror.
yeah.
Oh yeah, that was a tough one.
But what if they're doing something like that, where like everything they're doing is like building up to basically explaining Palpatine's return in Episode 9? Like it's all about the cloning saga,
That'd be so funny.
and so it's like that's why you're getting content in the Bad Batch. That's why you're getting content in Acolyte.
I mean,
That would be such a
There's
hilarious
another
mistake
example in there,
in
too,
my
but I forget.
mind.
Oh, I mean, obviously,
that is
yeah.
the worst possible idea in universe, story wise, business wise. I can't see a single person that would be pleased with that.
It'd be
Every
really-
single time they're like, "Are we still going through with this plan?" Because people really did not like that.
it'd be really funny if Filoni had like a bet in his entire life now, after he graduated college, was to infiltrate Star Wars and do this one thing. That's right. Before anything with Palpatine was there.
I think it would have had to have come after 2019 though, because I think
Yeah.
Dave Filoni came in right after Episode 9, and they were like, "Dave, you got to help us out, man. People did not like those last 2 films." And he's like, all right, let me just do a couple things real quick with Anakin and Ahsoka, and then we'll work our way there."
I'm doing something. I'm doing
and he's
something.
like, he's the puppet master behind the scenes right
Yeah.
now. He's like, "Don't worry, in 10 years they're gonna fucking love Episode 9. When
We
Poe
will.
Dameron says that somehow Palpatine returned, all the kids are gonna laugh because they're gonna say, "Oh, that was a meme back in my day." But then they're gonna start being like, "Oh, but actually, here's why it's actually a really good line." Sorry, that's some of my pet peeve coming out about the prequel.
I love it though, because I can
Prequel
imagine if like
fans.
the somehow is like, here it is. If you want to know that one fucking line, just like you want to know how they got the plans to the Death Star, gotta watch these 6 series and then the 3 movies.
Spinning is actually a really good trick and a high intellectual play by Anakin Skywalker.
yeah, that's like the type of stuff I hear, and I'm like, oh gosh, don't defend the prequels like that. Like, just say like you're nostalgic about it.
Yeah.
I've heard that the proper viewing order for Star Wars should be episodes 4, 5, half of 6, and then like, or no, it's 4 and half of 5, and then once Darth Vader makes his reveal that he's Anakin Skywalker, to then go back to watch episodes 1, 2, 3, finish 5, and then 6. And I am imagining something similar like this, where Dave Filoni's going to be like, all right, as soon as he says somehow Palpatine returned, everyone's going to pause, and then they're going to go watch The Bad Batch, then they're going to go watch Acolyte, then they're going to come back.
Then they're going to play the Fortnite limited time event.
I would love to do though is I actually would love to be able to edit the Star Wars movies like that as a TV show. Like in my personal time, I'd actually like that to be like, okay, here's the 45-minute chunk, so you can sparse it out. So like, it would make sense
If you can do it in 1 minute chunks so that I can watch it on TikTok when I'm scrolling, that would be much preferred.
Oh,
I love 1 minute long videos.
I will not.
All right, back to the Acolyte. The Jedi claim that they have the right to test potential Padawans. That seems wrong.
Yeah, that does seem wrong.
They
The
can just go
right?
wherever they want, and they have the right to.
But then she said, with your permission, of
I
course.
know, and it's just the right to test them. It's not the right to take them.
Yeah.
But it
then-
seems pretty similar.
I
he
think
said
it's-
with your permission, but then they were like, okay, fine. Osha can be tested. And they were like, bring May too. And I'm like, that doesn't sound consensual.
No, it does not.
I know.
I think there's something with the right in the fact that this is such a rarity in comparison to the galaxy that like they would have the right in the fact that they're so special, even though there's thousands of them. There's thousands out of trillions of people
I mean,
and species.
maybe if the Jedi were like an endangered species, I could see that. Or if, like my fan theory, that the midichlorians are fabricated by the Jedi to consolidate power and make everyone else believe that they can't do it. And then
Which I was thinking about.
I don't think you ever
I
said
think
that, Luke.
I said that on pod.
Have you?
Explain it again real quick, 'cause I want to talk more about it.
I like it.
Yeah, so the midichlorians are not real, completely fabricated, and the Jedi High Council are the only people in the galaxy that know that, and they're the only ones with access to the midichlorian testing stuff. I know that there would have to be some workaround with Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon doing it in The Phantom Menace. But it's such that the Force will not be used by people outside of the Jedi Order so that they can retain their power and superiority over everyone else.
It's
And then
basically, yeah, like a giant lie to gatekeep the Force, basically.
Yes.
And I think
Just like the
that's-
U.S. government.
Okay. Alex Jones.
I was thinking more Fox Mulder. I said like Alex Jones. Like, you're right.
I think there's something to that though for this TV show, because I
Yeah.
feel like they are purposely portraying the Jedi in this kind of ethically ambiguous manner where it's like, ugh, you have the right to do that? And then
Mhm.
like kind of like forcing May to go along with it too and everything. I think there is more to that than just like a throwaway theory. And I like that this show is diving into that, because we talked about I think it was when we were talking about the trailer for this show, about how when we see the Jedi in the Phantom Menace, they had already fallen at that point. They just didn't know it. So here, 100 years before the Phantom, we're just watching that downfall. And I feel like we're seeing it, right? We know that the Jedi did something terrible on Brendok. We know, they have these rights to kind of like gatekeep the Force, because apparently anyone who does have a strong midichlorian count, they want to be Jedi instead of some other sort of religious, other sort of Force religion or whatever.
I'm just thinking of this now. Sorry, this is unrelated semi. Do you think they're setting up? I can't. The girl who carried them. I can't think of her name.
Mother, Coral.
Do you
I
think
had that
she could be
written down.
Tooth Guy? She
Yeah,
seems very
she could be.
angry. I feel like if she survived, May is reporting.
Why would she hide her
honestly,
identity?
I'm at a point
That's
right
true.
now
That
with
doesn't make
this
any
show
sense.
where no idea is a bad idea. I know so little, and there's so many questions.
Just the fact that she hates the Jedi, so she turned to the Sith to be against the Jedi.
And it's a mystery. That's the thing. Usually when fanboys say stuff
Mhm.
like this, it's like we're overthinking it, right? Like everything that I
Yes.
said with Marok during Ahsoka. But it is a mystery. So I feel like we're supposed to be asking this question. And I feel like there is going to be a reveal So I feel like it is going to be somebody we know or should know.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be like Solo, where they just reveal the helmet and it's like, it's
a
just
girl.
somebody you don't know. Like I feel like there's going to be a moment where you find out who it is and you are supposed to know, or there is supposed to be some sort of connection.
Mhm.
Even if it's not someone we know, it's like, oh, but then we find out that person is an apprentice of Plagueis, and then Plagueis is like, I need to find a new apprentice, like something like that. I'm not saying that's going to happen.
Do you think the people who hate the show, it'll be better or worse if it's a white man? Because in that way, if it's a
I
bad
think
guy,
it makes zero difference.
if it's a bad guy, then he's the white man's putting everyone down. And then if it's not a white man, it's more diversity, which will make the haters hate more. It's a really lose-lose
That's a
situation.
catch-22.
Yeah, I think it makes zero difference at this
I
point.
love the
Yeah.
format of this show, like what you were saying though, Max, because Star Wars fans are notorious for overanalyzing every single second of all Star Wars content and going to every trailer and going with a fine-tooth comb and getting all the information you can get out of it. And this is finally a show now that is able to lean into that and
Yeah.
like ask us to do it more. And that's a really fun feeling. We have spent over a year now officially on the pod doing this, but our whole lives talking about Star Wars like that and thinking like, oh, what if this is that? And it feels really good to finally be justified in these questions, that they're actually questions now worth having and conversations worth having.
Nothing we're saying is right, but Star Wars is at least listening to us going, yes, there you go.
Squirm monkey.
If somebody can keep track of our theories and at the end of the show tally them up and send them to us to see out of the three of us, or maybe there's a pod as a whole, if we got anything right.
I know. I mean, don't go by percentage though, because there's probably like 5 plot elements and we've made probably 55 guesses.
Yeah.
So we're definitely going to get a lot more wrong than we get right.
What do they say about a blind squirrel? Something like that, right?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while. You never heard that saying before?
Mm-mm.
Yeah. Blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while.
Was right twice a day?
Yeah, it's the same thing.
I said that the other day, and Lynn's like, "Is that a phrase?" Like, yeah, it's a phrase. And she said the most off-the-wall phrase I've ever heard. I was like,
Was it about the blind squirrel?
No, it wasn't about the blind squirrel.
I can't believe. Whatever.
I've not heard the
They
blind
mean
squirrel
the
one.
exact same thing, but whatever.
A broken clock is right twice a day though, because we're on the same page.
Yeah.
I think another reason I didn't like this episode is that I didn't like any of the characters. At separate times, I had the thought like, wow, fuck you, Soul, and Indara, and May, and Osha, and Mother, and Other Mother. The only person I never said that about was Kelnaka, and he didn't talk. It seems like this episode just wanted me to hate everyone.
I think that might be the point. I think that is on purpose though. They're morally ambiguous, all of them. I think that's
Morally ambiguous?
Thank you for saying morally ambiguous. I said ethically ambiguous earlier, and I did not like that because it sounded too much like ethnically ambiguous.
Max does not like ethnically ambiguous people either.
It's like York,
Just tell me what you are before
Jackie
we
is-
have a conversation.
Jackie is half Thelan? No, just make her one or another.
Yeah, I think they're
We're joking about that. I did complain about that on the pod, though, right? I actually am bothered by that. It's just lazy prop makers and makeup artists. Just have the guts to do it all the way.
Yeah, I don't know. Morally ambiguous. I don't know. I think the show's a lot. I like the show. I don't know. I'm gonna change my mind a little. Like I think from like week to week, but so far I'm having a lot of fun with it.
I'm sure I'm gonna like it by the end of it, but it's just I'm just exhausted with all these questions. The witch coven, they're all women. Which is it just because witches are women and wizards are boys in like
boys
outside fantasy
or warlocks? It depends. I think.
Yeah. I think
I think that's what they're.
I remember I was worried about that when the Witches of Dathomir started coming out into the Clone Wars, and I was like, oh, we're gonna have witches now, but they can only be girls. And then I was like, well, are wizards only boys? And it's like with our girl Jedi, but Jedi are only referred to as wizards and never a witch for a Jedi. But would they be a witch if you're a girl Jedi? And would a boy member of this coven be a wizard? Are they allowed to have boy members? Are they allowed to have children members? Why are there no children? There's so many questions and not even an inkling of an answer.
Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to get answers to those questions. I think we'll get answers to some of the other ones.
The children thing, it seems like, since they're out of the Republic, that with the witches, it seems like, presumably, the Jedi would have claim then over anybody who has any sort of powers, it seems like.
The Jedi shouldn't have claim, though. It should be an
I
option.
agree, but I think
why
that's
it's
what's going
icky
on.
when they say that they have the right to test them. Everyone watching is like, ugh.
Because they keep saying that they're out of the Republic, too. So I feel like within the Republic, presumably that's why they got banished from their home,
I know, but I was thinking also if they tried playing that card on Tatooine in The Phantom Menace, which they did to an extent, but if Qui-Gon was like, oh, slavery is illegal in the Republic, and Watto was like, we're not in the Republic, but slavery is still bad.
Yeah.
Right? You can't argue that.
Let's talk
That's a
about
good point.
Qui-Gon stealing a blood sample from Anakin without his consent.
Oh boy.
Yeah, why do you have to do that?
Um,
Did he even check it for infections, or did he lie about that too? For all he knows,
I
he's
think he was
infected.
just straight up lying. This boy is definitely
could've-
sick, but he doesn't care. There was also the line that Soul said when he said, "The Jedi do not take children," and right when he said that, I even said out loud, I was like, "Well."
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
But I think they're doing that on purpose. They're trying to make the audience feel like, oh man, are the Jedi wrong? And I really like that, kind of blurring the lines.
Yeah.
Because we're starting to see the downfall.
The last note I have that's worth talking about is Kelnaka has a bandolier bag. Did you guys notice that?
I did not.
You know how Chewbacca has his like bandolier sash?
Of course.
And I always thought that was an ammunition thing. But Kelnaka is not packing heat. He's got a lightsaber, no gun, but he still has that bandolier bag. And so it must be a fashion thing in the Wookiee culture.
Or just convenient. I mean, it's a pocket. We just got to carry stuff.
Yeah.
But not with a bandolier sash. Like a bandolier, like actual bullets is what it looks like on Chewbacca. You know what I mean?
He got little things in there.
He's got the little things, which
Little
I always thought
snacks.
were bullets, but maybe they're
Snacks.
snacks. That would make more sense for
Or
Kelnaka.
stim packs in case anyone gets a little 25% damage or something. He just gives them a quick boost.
Or a razor so he can shave the rest of his head.
Am I the only one that ever thought of it as ammunition? I guess maybe I'm in the minority.
No,
here.
in
For
Chewbacca, I 100% always thought it was
Yeah,
ammunition.
I was going to
Oh,
say,
okay, good.
this could also just be a clear oversight by the costume designer who's like, that's cool, let's do that again.
It's Greeblies.
No.
They don't know what any of it means. They just
Yeah.
make it to look cool, and then they wait for somebody like what's his name, who does the visual dictionary and gives all these
Pablo
Greeblies.
Hidalgo.
Pablo Hidalgo, who gives them all names and purposes and everything.
That'd be the best. Just taking something that already exists and making it cooler.
On that note of taking something that already exists and making it cooler, OSHA's notebook was in the shape of a triangle. Love.
Yeah.
Just a
So
little
inconvenient.
bit
Can you imagine
different.
even trying to read? My eyesight be like, holy fuck, what?
Do you
Your
think?
notes just constantly come to a point. You're like,
Yeah.
how do I write in this?
No, and Max, as a fellow lefty, can you even imagine doing that?
I assume they make left-handed versions of it where the point's to the
Ugh.
left.
We can
Ugh.
only hope. I doubt it, though, to be honest. How many left-handed desks have you sat at in your life? I can
Not
say,
nearly enough.
yeah, I could say 4 or 5 maybe.
Yeah.
That's like K through 12 plus college.
I will say though, the amount of inconvenience from that one time I accidentally sat in a left-handed desk is far outweighing the amount of benefit it gives you. We shouldn't have any left-handed desks because I accidentally sat in one time. Who knows how many right-handed people have had to sit in them?
Yeah,
Probably
you guys,
dozens.
You guys are affected by this a lot.
I know.
We're sorry to hear this about you.
So sorry.
I bet there's a large segment of the people
The
listening to this
1% are
episode.
suffering too, people.
There's a lot of people listening to this podcast right now who are like, I never even knew there were left-handed desks. Well, there are. There's also left-handed scissors, and they are the bane of my fucking existence.
Right, because left-handed people still use right-handed scissors as a right-handed dominant thing.
I have to use scissors with my right hand because the way that they snip is designed to cut
Mhm.
into each other. It's
And now that you've done that your whole life, you're right-hand dominant with scissors. So if you got left-handed scissors, they're useless.
no, because I still try, but I guess that is stupid of me. Whatever. We're moving past it.
Yep.
All right.
No one is more
We
discriminated.
got through
than
all my
I.
notes. What are your guys' final thoughts on episode 3 of The Acolyte? Mine is, I guess they're negative, but I'm sure I'm gonna love it on rewatch, and I'm sure I'm gonna love the end of the series. But tonight, right now, I didn't love watching that.
My thoughts are positive, but maybe it's because I went into it with low expectations because it's episode 3 of 8. Like, you weren't gonna get a multiple episode drop, and you know that it's still gonna be somewhere in the first act. So to me, like I said, I felt like they gave us a lot to chew on, where I'm satisfied with the amount of content that I got until next week. Because with a lot of other shows, Star Wars shows specifically, it happens where I get a 1 week episode and then like the next day I'm like, all right, let's go. Like, let's keep going. I'm kind of like
Mhm.
wanting to know what's happening here.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it was a mistake in my mind that they could have like intercut this episode over 2 episodes and had intercut with the present day story, so we could get more Tooth Guy and Chimere, Yord, Old May, killing
See.
Jedi. I'm excited for her to confront Kelnaka.
I'd rather have those episodes be by themselves because that's when Book of Boba Fett is like, oh my god, flashback again.
I mean, there's a way to do like early seasons of Lost did flashbacks really
Sure,
well. It's not that
at least-
flashbacks are inherently flawed.
This way, you're just in it though. In this episode will be the flashback episode, but we don't know. Maybe there's gonna be more flashback
There
episodes.
has to be more flashback episodes because
Yeah.
we learned
Yeah.
nothing.
You also need to understand, like from a storytelling perspective, like if the tooth guy is the big bad, they're not going to give you a whole lot of content of him up front because they want to save it for the back end if that's like the final drop. I mean, like think about like just a movie. Think of the Phantom Menace. You get very, very little Darth Maul content until the final battle.
That's true, but Darth Maul exists solely as a duelist in the final battle. There's no mystery.
This
around
might
him.
too. It's just a TV show, and it's just taking us longer to get there instead of a 2.5 hour
But
movie.
Tooth Guy is more than just a duelist at the end of the show. He's a mystery. He's someone, and he's got plot importance, and so on.
I still think it's Quimir. I don't even know how to say his name. And we talked about this already, but I still think it's him. I think the way he snapped into that creepiness. I gotta Google that to see if that's a theory too. It's got. I mean, obviously it's gonna be a theory.
I've seen it,
Yeah, I've
but there's
heard
a
it.
theory that he's everyone we've seen so far.
There's four people in the
yeah.
show who it could be. I still think it's him.
There's a theory that May still does have, or Oshis does still have a split personality, and it's also her. But there's
She's playing 3 characters. That actress. That'd be wild.
she better be making bank, baby.
Overall, yes, very positive. I like this episode a lot. Again, I've been really enjoying it. I'm also really enjoying it, watching it with you guys, because it's been a long time since we were able to do the podcast, and then it's been a long time since Ahsoka, it feels like. So I'm having a
It
blast.
has been a long time. And speaking of Ahsoka, we made a big point to enjoy Burger King with every episode of Ahsoka.
We
so that when
really
we-
try to enjoy it.
we definitely had Burger King with every episode of Ahsoka. And so when we go back and eat Burger King in the future, we'll have fond memories of Ahsoka because Burger King's kind of, And so we decided for the Acolyte, we are going to be eating Taco Bell. Tonight we had the number 3s. What'd you guys think of them? Matt, you described it as a wet burrito.
It was the wettest burrito.
It was
I've
very
ever
messy.
had. I don't know
Yeah.
what I was eating fully. I think there was beans in it.
Not sure if that was by design or just a bad make, but
I think it was by design. And you both asked me at separate times because I picked up the Taco Bell and you asked me, "Oh, what are we having?" And I said, "You knew it was the number 3." And I was like, "I don't know."
you said it's Taco Bell.
It's all Taco Bell. It's tortilla and beef and cheese and salsa in some sort of configuration. It was a burrito supreme with a beef supreme burrito. And did it not give us everything? Because it says,
No, it's 3 things.
yeah, this says burrito supreme, Mountain Dew Baja Blast, beef supreme burrito. Maybe that's just the
Yeah.
the name of it.
name of it in the
Yeah.
order. And then a beef crunchy taco supreme. It was all fine, but I
Yeah.
did not like the wetness of the burrito.
Yeah, it was.
I agree.
A
It was
little
messier than it was
disconcerting.
worth.
Yeah, it was a lot of slurping. It felt like we were eating soup. It was a little odd.
Slurping.
Slurping is not an adjective or
For a
a
burrito.
verb I want for a burrito. Yeah.
Quick story, Luke, really quick. When my son was being born, when we went into the hospital for the first night, I had to order dinner for myself because Lynn could not eat. And I was like, oh, Luke Taylor has this theory that anytime you do something special, you should order a certain food you never get. So that way you always think of it. And I was
Mhm.
like, I'm going to order Chick-fil-A. I never get Chick-fil-A.
Oh, really? I love Chick-fil-A.
I know. I just think the Wendy's spicy chicken sandwich is better. So then I get and it's cheaper. And so I got Chick-fil-A. And my stomach hurt so fucking bad. And I was like, I literally told Lynn, I was like, please tell me to yell at Luke next time I see him. Anyway, here we are 2 months later.
So
and
now every time you see your kid, you get a tummy ache now too.
Yeah,
so it sucks on multiple levels.
Every kid you're gonna have in the future, you're gonna be dreading like, oh, now I gotta eat a fucking chicken sandwich.
But the thing is, I liked it, but it was my fault that I got the spicy chicken sandwich after not eating anything and staying up till like 4 a.m. while my
Yeah,
wife's in labor.
that also
so,
doesn't help.
Yeah, it was not the smartest decision, but
Well, I hope you have
I thought
many
of you.
kids so that you can come around on your views on Chick-fil-A.
yes, I'll let you know in a couple of years. Okay.
I love Chick-fil-A. The worst thing that they've ever done though is convince the internet that the secret ingredient in their recipe is pickle juice, because I have multiple times had people like try to make chicken like Chick-fil-A and they're like, oh, the secret is pickle juice, and then I eat it and it's gross every single time. I'm like, this is not Chick-fil-A chicken. Like they are lying to you.
Yeah, there's something else.
That's
Yeah.
hilarious.
But
Just
breading chicken is hard. That's why I get Chick-fil-A so
is.
often. I love Chick-fil-A, and I can't make it at home nearly as well. Like most other fast food, especially Taco Bell, because Mexican food is so easy to cook at home.
so different though.
But yeah, for the life of me, I cannot make a chicken sandwich or chicken nuggets nearly as good as Chick-fil-A. So I go there quite often.
Yeah, a lot of fast food content this episode, but one more story because I never get Taco Bell. However, Matt and I started a tradition in college called the Taco Bowl,
Mhm.
where every Super Bowl we just get a 12-pack of tacos and eat a crap ton.
Yep.
And in recent years, like our wives and stuff have been coming to it, and every time my wife is like, can't we just make the tacos at home? Because Taco Bell's also like for a 12-pack of tacos, it's like $18 or something like that now.
Yeah.
She's like, I can just buy the ingredients, we can just make better tacos. And I'm like, I know that we can. That's not the point.
No.
It's a tradition.
It is a tradition, and and the part of that tradition is the day after that Monday, you just feel a brick of sodium in your stomach.
Correct.
And you hurt so bad, and it's gotten worse every year.
Yet we look forward to it every time.
Yep, and I don't learn my lesson. I will eat 12 tacos.
Well, that's our views on the Acolyte episode 3.
Is that what we're talking about?
Thanks for listening. Reach out to us on socials, and we'll see you next week for episode 4.
See you, Sammy.